The aroma of fresh basil and ripe tomatoes wafted through the air as I wandered through the Portland Farmers Market. The vibrant colors of the produce and the lively chatter of vendors created a comforting backdrop. Each Saturday, I found solace in this bustling scene, momentarily escaping the weight of my loneliness as a single mother. My son, Ethan, was off with his friends, leaving me to navigate this world alone. I picked up a ripe peach, its fuzz tickling my fingers. Perfect for a summer tart, I murmured to myself, imagining the sweet flavors blending together in a warm kitchen. Cooking had always been my refuge, a way to express love when words seemed inadequate. Yet, even amidst the bustling market, I felt an emptiness that gnawed at me. As I strolled past stalls adorned with handmade goods and artisanal cheeses, I spotted a group of young men laughing near a food truck. My heart skipped when I recognized them as Ethan's friends, Jake, Max, and Leo. They were animatedly discussing something that made them laugh louder than the surrounding noise. "Hey, Alice," Jake called out when he saw me. His bright smile reminded me of Ethan's youthful exuberance. "Hi there. What are you guys up to?" I replied, forcing a smile despite my heart racing. "We're grabbing some lunch before heading to the park," Max said casually while eyeing a taco stand. "Want to join us?" Leo added with an inviting grin. I hesitated for a moment. Joining them felt like stepping into another world, a world filled with laughter and carefree moments that seemed so distant from my reality. "I should probably head home," I said softly. "Come on. It'll be fun," Jake insisted, his enthusiasm infectious. The thought of sharing lunch with them ignited something deep inside me, a spark of excitement long forgotten in my daily routine. "All right," I found myself saying before I could second-guess my decision. We settled at a picnic table under the shade of an oak tree, enjoying tacos bursting with flavor and swapping stories about our favorite foods and cooking disasters. The laughter flowed easily between us, and for those brief moments, I felt a sense of connection that had eluded me for years. "You should join us for cooking classes at the Culinary Institute next week," Jake suggested as we finished our meal. "It'll be fun. Plus, we could use someone who knows how to cook." The thought sent a thrill through me. Cooking classes sounded like an escape from my mundane routine and an opportunity to bond with these young men in ways that transcended typical mother-son relationships. "That sounds great. Count me in," I replied before considering how this might complicate things further down the line. After exchanging numbers and promises to meet again soon, we parted ways, Ethan's friends heading off to enjoy their day while I walked home with thoughts swirling in my mind like autumn leaves caught in the wind. The excitement lingered long after our lunch ended. It was both exhilarating and terrifying to feel drawn toward them in such an unexpected way. As night fell over Portland, casting shadows across my quiet living room, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something had shifted within me. A longing for connection that had remained dormant for far too long began to awaken. That evening marked the beginning of something new. It was as if the vibrant energy of Portland had seeped into my very being, urging me to embrace life once more. Yet deep down lay an unsettling awareness. This allure came with risks that could unravel everything familiar. In the days that followed, anticipation bubbled within me like yeast rising in dough as I prepared for my first cooking class at the Culinary Institute. Each moment spent imagining what lay ahead brought both hope and anxiety. Would this be just another fleeting distraction or something more profound? As I stepped into the classroom filled with laughter and aromas reminiscent of home-cooked meals shared among family and friends, I felt alive again, a feeling that had become foreign yet desperately sought after during years spent navigating single motherhood alone. The class was alive with chatter as people paired off to tackle various recipes together, groups forming naturally around shared interests while culinary delights simmered on stovetops nearby. Among them were Ethan's friends. Their presence anchored me amidst unfamiliar faces while serving as a reminder of why I'd taken this leap into uncharted territory. "Hey Alice. Ready to get cooking? Jake called out cheerfully as he approached me at our designated station filled with fresh ingredients waiting for our culinary magic. I'm all set. My voice held more enthusiasm than intended, an eagerness fueled by their camaraderie blending seamlessly into this new chapter of life unfolding before me. As we chopped vegetables together under guidance from our instructor, the warmth radiating from stovetops mingling with laughter, I found myself drawn closer not just physically but emotionally towards these young men who ignited feelings long buried beneath layers of responsibility and loss. During breaks between cooking tasks filled with flour-covered hands and spilled ingredients came moments where laughter turned softer, a shared glance lingering too long or playful nudges hinting at something deeper brewing beneath surface-level interactions. Yet amidst these joyful exchanges lurked shadows cast by guilt creeping into corners where excitement thrived. What would Ethan think if he knew? Would he understand? Or would he feel betrayed by his mother seeking companionship among his peers? As class drew toward its end, with plates adorned beautifully presenting our collective efforts, I couldn't help but feel exhilarated yet conflicted about where this newfound journey might lead us all next. It was thrilling yet daunting, alluring yet fraught with uncertainty about consequences looming just beyond reach like storm clouds gathering on horizon threatening rain upon sunlit days ahead. With each passing moment spent together, the lines between friendship blurred ever so slightly. I sensed an awakening within myself fueled by connections forged unexpectedly through culinary exploration alongside youthful spirits eager for adventure just like mine once had been before responsibilities weighed heavy upon shoulders now yearning for freedom anew. The laughter echoed around the cooking classroom as we cleaned up, remnants of flour dusting our clothes. I had begun to look forward to these evenings, filled with warmth and camaraderie. Each class was a new adventure, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that I was straying into uncharted territory. My heart raced at the thought of what lay beneath the surface of these friendships. "Hey, Alice. You should totally join us for the farmers' market this weekend," one of the younger students, Jake, suggested, his enthusiasm infectious. He was one of my son's closest friends and had a way of making me feel included in their youthful world. "Yeah, it'll be fun. We can pick out ingredients for next week's class," chimed in Mia, another friend. Their eagerness tugged at something deep within me, a longing for connection that I hadn't felt in years. "Sounds great. Count me in," I replied, surprising even myself with my eagerness. As days passed, I found myself immersed in planning our outing. The farmers' market was a vibrant tapestry of colors and sounds, fresh produce bursting with life and vendors calling out their wares. It was a place where community thrived and connections blossomed. When Saturday arrived, the sun painted everything in golden hues as I navigated through the bustling crowd, my heart fluttering with anticipation. Jake and Mia greeted me with bright smiles as we explored stalls together, picking ripe tomatoes here, fragrant basil there. Laughter flowed freely, it felt like a different world altogether. At one point, we stopped to sample some local cheeses. The moment lingered as we shared bites and playful banter. Suddenly, amidst laughter and a shared glance over a wedge of brie, something shifted between us, a spark ignited by joy but also by an unspoken understanding that lingered just below the surface. In that fleeting moment of connection, amidst laughter and flour, I could sense an electric tension growing between us. "We kissed," he said jokingly after I playfully nudged him for taking too much cheese. "Just a friendly peck," I replied with forced lightness while my cheeks flushed crimson. Yet inside me swirled confusion mixed with exhilaration. How had things escalated so quickly? The thrill was intoxicating but came hand in hand with guilt that gnawed at my conscience like an unwelcome guest. As we left the market that day, Jake insisted on walking me home despite my protests about him needing to get back to his own plans. "I don't mind," he said earnestly while casually brushing his fingers against mine as we strolled along the tree-lined streets. That simple gesture sent waves of warmth coursing through me, an acknowledgement that perhaps this connection ran deeper than mere friendship. But guilt quickly followed suit. He was still my son's friend, a line I had never intended to cross. When we reached my doorstep, silence enveloped us momentarily before he turned to face me directly, his expression earnest yet uncertain. "Can we do this again?" he asked softly. I hesitated before nodding slowly. There was no denying that part of me craved more moments like this, more laughter shared over fresh ingredients or playful banter amid culinary chaos, but another part screamed caution. "Yes," I finally whispered back. As he walked away down the path leading from my house, doubts crept into my mind like shadows at dusk. What did this mean? Was I seeking companionship or something deeper? Each question weighed heavily on my heart as night fell, a darkness reflecting both uncertainty and possibility. The following weeks blurred into a whirlwind of cooking classes combined with stolen moments at coffee shops or farmers' markets filled with laughter echoing like distant music in my ears, a melody both sweet and sorrowful as it tugged at hidden desires within me. But every time our paths crossed, the flirtation remained tantalizingly close yet just out of reach, like trying to grasp smoke slipping through fingers too late. Moments became laced with tension. There were glances filled with promise but always underlined by caution stemming from our tangled web of relationships. One evening after class concluded early due to an unexpected power outage, candles flickering around us, I found myself alone in the kitchen alongside Jake once more while others drifted away into twilight shadows outside. "I'm glad you're here," he murmured quietly as he leaned against the counter beside me, the space between us charged with unspoken words hanging heavy in the air. A sudden rush surged through me. Vulnerability danced on edges where fear met excitement head-on like two waves crashing together under moonlit skies. An invitation wrapped tightly within shared glances filled with longing yet restrained by reality's grip holding tightly around us both. "Me too," I managed to whisper back before leaning slightly closer toward him. A moment suspended in time where everything else faded into oblivion surrounding just us two lost souls seeking solace amid chaos swirling outside our fragile bubble formed within those four walls bathed softly in candlelight flickers illuminating hidden depths, waiting patiently beneath surfaces barely scratched upon until now. And then it happened, without thinking or hesitation. I closed the distance between us completely until our lips met for what felt like eternity suspended within fleeting seconds stretching infinitely across time itself. But reality crashed back hard when laughter from outside broke through our bubble abruptly reminding me who exactly stood beside him. The very son whose trust rested precariously upon fragile threads now fraying dangerously close due to choices made without foresight or consideration for consequences looming just beyond reach like storm clouds gathering on horizon threatening rain upon sunlit days ahead. Fear gripped my heart tightly, there was no turning back now. It felt exhilarating yet terrifying all at once as confusion twisted painfully inside alongside guilt threatening to suffocate newfound connections forged unexpectedly through culinary exploration alongside youthful spirits eager for adventure just like mine once had been before responsibilities weighed heavy upon shoulders now yearning for freedom anew. The evening air was thick with the scent of sautéed garlic and fresh herbs as I stood in the kitchen, my heart racing. The laughter of my son's friends echoed from the living room, a sound that once filled me with warmth but now twisted my insides with uncertainty. I had crossed a line, and each shared glance between us felt like an unspoken acknowledgement of that fact. As I stirred the pot on the stove, I caught sight of Jake leaning against the doorframe, his casual posture belying the tension that crackled in the air. He flashed a smile that sent a rush of warmth through me, igniting memories of our stolen moments together, the laughter we shared during cooking classes, the way our hands brushed as we reached for ingredients. But beneath that thrill lay an undercurrent of guilt that threatened to drown me. "What's cooking?" Jake asked, stepping into the kitchen. His voice was light, but his eyes held something deeper, a flicker of curiosity mixed with concern. "Just some pasta," I replied, trying to sound casual as I turned back to stir. "You know how it is." "I do," he said softly, stepping closer. "It smells amazing." A silence enveloped us as I focused on the bubbling sauce. My mind raced with thoughts of my son, oblivious to this budding connection taking shape right under his nose. Was it fair to him? To myself? The questions swirled like steam rising from the pot. Jake reached out and touched my arm lightly. You okay? I met his gaze, and for a moment everything else faded away, the worries about my son's reaction, the weight of my choices. It was just us in that small kitchen filled with warmth and possibility. Yeah, I managed to say, though uncertainty lingered in my voice. Good, he said with a smile that made my heart flutter again. We should have dinner together more often. The suggestion hung in the air like an invitation wrapped in hope. But before I could respond, laughter erupted from the other room, a reminder of where we were and who we were supposed to be. I turned back to the stove, forcing myself to focus on dinner prep while battling conflicting emotions crashing inside me like waves against rocky shores. The thrill of new connections tugged at me fiercely, yet guilt wrapped around my heart like a vice grip. As we set the table together moments later, our fingers brushing again, I tried to ignore how natural it felt being close to him. The conversation flowed easily among us all during dinner. Light-hearted banter filled any awkward silences as we enjoyed plates brimming with food crafted from love and laughter. But then came that moment when everything shifted again, when our laughter faded into something deeper. After dinner, while washing dishes side by side with Jake still lingering close behind me at the sink, his breath warm against my neck, I turned slightly toward him without thinking. Our eyes locked for what felt like an eternity before instinct overtook reason. Our lips met softly amidst soapsuds and fading sunlight filtering through kitchen windows. Reality crashed back down hard when I pulled away abruptly. Confusion flooded back in as I realized what had just happened, the thrill mingling dangerously with fear now swirling within me like storm clouds gathering overhead. I'm sorry, Jake whispered almost immediately after breaking away too. His cheeks flushed bright crimson under soft glow of kitchen lights illuminating our shared space now charged thickly between us with unsaid words hanging heavily in silence surrounding us both. No, don't be, I replied quickly but hardly believed myself anymore either, this was all too much too soon. He nodded slowly before stepping back slightly as if creating distance between us would somehow ease this tension building up around us both. Yet it only amplified feelings swirling inside me further still until they felt unbearable altogether, now threatening to spill over into chaos if not contained quickly enough somehow before anyone else noticed. The door creaked open and suddenly breaking through our bubble once more. My son walked in carrying his backpack slung casually over one shoulder while glancing between us curiously before settling onto his chair at dining table where remnants from dinner still lingered on plates awaiting cleanup later tonight perhaps. Hey guys, he said nonchalantly, yet there was something about his tone that struck me immediately. It sounded almost guarded somehow, though maybe just tired after long day spent at school. Hey, Jake replied quickly, turning away from me entirely, now facing toward him instead while attempting casualness despite tension still lingering thickly around us both even after brief moments shared earlier. Did you have fun? My son asked innocently enough, but there was an edge there too, a hinting suspicion lurking beneath surface ready to emerge if given chance. Yeah, Jake answered easily, shrugging off any weight behind question without hesitation whilst shooting glance back toward me quickly before returning focus fully onto him again instead. I cooked. I chimed in, trying desperately for normalcy while scrubbing dish furiously, hoping it would somehow mask turmoil brewing just underneath skin threatening escape if not controlled properly soon enough. Nice, he replied casually, picking up fork absent-mindedly twirling it between fingers while watching both of us carefully now. It felt almost unnerving how perceptive he could be sometimes despite youthfulness shining brightly throughout each interaction shared among friends gathered here tonight. Suddenly realization hit hard. What if he found out? What if everything unraveled right here at this very moment? Would he understand? Would he forgive? Panic surged within me, yet again pushing boundaries further than ever before, but before anything could unfold completely or spiral out control entirely, I felt compelled urge speak up somehow break silence hanging thickly around us all. Do you want dessert? My voice wavered slightly, betraying nerves churning inside even amidst light-heartedness surrounding dinner table where laughter usually flourished freely without worries looming overhead threatening collapse upon fragile foundations built carefully over years spent nurturing, bonds forged through love shared openly among family gathered close together. Sure. My son replied cheerfully enough, though something about way those words left lips felt almost forced somehow, as if masking deeper concerns lurking beneath surface, waiting patiently just beneath layers, waiting for chance emerge fully someday soon, perhaps when least expected, most likely. As dessert plates were served up moments later amidst nervous chatter exchanged between friends gathered close together around table, I couldn't shake feeling dread creeping steadily closer with every passing second spent sharing space alongside them all. The night wore on slowly yet uneasily until finally came time say goodnight after hugs exchanged among friends departing homeward bound, leaving behind echoes, laughter lingering softly throughout empty rooms, filled memories created here tonight alone. But even amidst quietness settling heavily upon house once more, I couldn't help but feel weight pressing down harder than ever before, threatening crushed dreams cherished tightly within heart, yearning escape, desperately seeking solace somewhere far away from here instead. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. I lay in bed, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions from the night before. We spent the night together, an experience that brought both comfort and confusion. The laughter, the shared stories, the warmth of connection, it all felt so right in that moment. But now, with daylight breaking in, reality loomed larger than before. I could hear my son moving around in his room down the hall. The sound of his footsteps was a stark reminder of my dual existence, mother by day, someone else entirely by night. I sighed deeply, pulling myself out of bed and into the morning routine that had become second nature to me. I brewed coffee, its rich aroma filling the kitchen as I tried to shake off the weight of what I'd done. As I stood at the counter stirring sugar into my cup, my phone buzzed on the table. A message from one of my son's friends flashed on the screen, an innocent inquiry about dinner plans for later that week. My heart raced, it felt like a secret too big to hold. I hesitated before responding, knowing full well how intertwined our lives had become. Hey Alice. Are we still on for Friday? Can't wait to try that new recipe. I typed back quickly, trying to maintain a casual tone. Absolutely. Looking forward to it. But beneath those words lay an undercurrent of anxiety. What would happen if my son found out? Would he understand? Or would he feel betrayed? The thought twisted in my stomach like a knot tightening with each passing moment. Mom. His voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to reality. Can we talk? I turned toward his room, where he stood framed in the doorway with an expression that suggested something was weighing heavily on him too. Sure, I replied cautiously. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him, a gesture that sent a shiver down my spine. It felt like we were entering uncharted territory together. I've noticed you've been different lately, he began tentatively. You're not around as much at night. I swallowed hard, searching for words that wouldn't betray me or our fragile bond. Just busy with some cooking classes and things, I offered lightly. His brow furrowed slightly as he studied me closely. Is everything okay? You seem distracted. Everything's fine, I assured him too quickly, feeling guilt creep up like an unwelcome guest at a gathering. He nodded slowly but didn't seem convinced. Okay, just checking. The silence stretched between us like a taut wire ready to snap at any moment. My heart raced as I contemplated whether to share anything more or keep this part of my life hidden away. Mom? He hesitated again before speaking up once more. You know you can tell me anything, right? Those words hung heavy in the air between us, an invitation and a warning all at once. Did he suspect more than he let on? I know, I replied softly, wishing desperately for clarity amidst this chaos. Good, he said finally before leaving me alone with my racing thoughts again. As soon as he walked out, I felt a wave of relief wash over me mixed with residual tension clinging stubbornly to my chest. How could I maintain this delicate balance between being there for him while exploring these new connections? Later that day, as if drawn by some invisible force, I found myself wandering back to the cooking school where it all began, the place where laughter mingled with flour-dusted countertops and friendships blossomed unexpectedly amidst simmering pots and pans. Walking through those familiar doors felt both comforting and disorienting at once. Memories flooded back from previous classes filled with joy and moments shared over culinary creations crafted together. When class began, laughter erupted among us as we chopped vegetables and stirred sauces under the guidance of our instructor, a lively woman who radiated enthusiasm for food and community alike. But today was different. There was an unspoken tension lingering beneath our casual banter, an awareness of secrets shared only behind closed doors after class hours ended. One friend caught my eye across the kitchen, a young man whose smile held both charm and mischief, and suddenly all those feelings bubbled up again like water reaching a boiling point. His gaze locked onto mine when our hands brushed against each other while passing ingredients back and forth. It sent an electric thrill coursing through me despite everything else swirling around us. The laughter fading into background noise as we exchanged knowing glances filled with unspoken promises lingering just beneath surface-level interactions. After class ended amidst shared goodbyes echoing through hallways leading outside into crisp evening air, it happened again. Another invitation floated into existence like magic waiting patiently for someone brave enough to grasp hold tightly without hesitation. "How about grabbing dinner later?" he asked casually while leaning against his car parked nearby. The warmth radiating off him felt inviting yet dangerously intoxicating too. I hesitated briefly but then nodded slowly, caught in this whirlwind of emotions spiraling out beyond control now pulling me deeper down paths never intended nor anticipated when first stepping foot inside those walls months ago. Dinner unfolded over plates filled with flavorful dishes accompanied by laughter echoing freely throughout restaurant space, a sanctuary amidst chaos lurking just beyond its doors waiting patiently outside our bubble created here tonight. But then came moments where silence fell heavy again, glances exchanged turned into something deeper than mere friendship. A spark igniting something uncharted within both hearts tangled together navigating unknown waters surrounded by shadows cast from past decisions made long ago. Hours slipped away unnoticed until finally parting ways beckoned us back towards reality once more. And just like that, I found myself caught between two worlds once again. One filled with familial love battling against desires awakened unexpectedly amidst newfound connections forged within culinary adventures shared alongside friends who knew nothing about true depths hidden beneath surface layers surrounding lives lived openly, yet privately simultaneously. Back home later that night, I lay awake staring up at ceiling wondering how long could continue balancing these two lives without consequences creeping closer threatening unravel everything carefully constructed so far. Then came an alarming call from my son's phone ringing, unexpectedly breaking through silence enveloping house around me. It jolted me upright instantly wide awake heart pounding fiercely against chest echoing loud thoughts racing wildly ahead toward unknown outcomes awaiting discovery lurking just beyond reach waiting patiently poised for confrontation looming ever closer threatening break. Fragile peace settled here tonight. The phone call shattered the stillness, and I hesitated before answering. My son's name lit up the screen, and a pit formed in my stomach. "Mom? Are you home?" His voice was cautious, probing. "Yeah, I'm here," I replied, trying to sound casual. "What's up?" "I just got back from hanging out with some friends. I wanted to check in." There was a pause, and I could hear him breathing on the other end. "You've been acting weird lately." "Weird? How?" I feigned innocence, though my heart raced. The late nights and secretive texts weighed heavily on my conscience. "I don't know, just different," he said slowly. Are you seeing someone? The question hung in the air like a thick fog. No, honey, it's just been busy with work and everything. He didn't sound convinced. Okay, but if there's something going on, you can tell me. Really, I insisted, though doubt crept into my mind. Could he sense the tension? The secret evenings spent with his friends? All right, he said finally, but there was an edge to his voice that suggested he wasn't buying it. Just, be careful. I will, I promised, but as I hung up the phone, a wave of dread washed over me. The fragile balance between my two worlds felt like it was teetering on the brink of collapse. The next day unfolded with an unsettling normalcy that belied the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. At the Portland Farmers Market, vibrant colors surrounded me, fresh produce and flowers bursting with life, but inside, I felt hollow. The laughter of families and friends echoed around me while I struggled to focus on picking out ripe tomatoes. Then I saw him, one of my son's friends, Ben. He strolled through the market with an easy confidence that made my heart flutter against all reason. He spotted me and waved enthusiastically. Hey Alice. Fancy seeing you here. His smile was bright and genuine. Hi Ben. Just grabbing some things for dinner. My voice came out lighter than I felt. Need any help? He offered casually. I hesitated but then nodded, perhaps it would distract me from my spiraling thoughts. We wandered through stalls together as we chatted about school and summer plans. But amidst our light conversation, something shifted in Ben's demeanor, a flicker of something deeper lingered in his gaze. As we reached a stall selling artisan cheeses, Ben leaned closer to whisper conspiratorially about a new recipe he had tried recently. His enthusiasm was infectious, but beneath it lay an undercurrent of tension that made me uneasy. You should come over for dinner sometime, he suggested suddenly, looking at me earnestly. Maybe, the word slipped out before I could stop myself. Just then, another friend arrived, Jake, and greeted us with a playful nudge to Ben's shoulder. What are you two plotting over here? Ben straightened up quickly as if caught off guard by Jake's arrival. Just talking about food, he replied too quickly. Jake raised an eyebrow at me before turning back to Ben with a teasing grin. You know Alice is basically a culinary wizard now. I chuckled awkwardly at their banter while feeling increasingly out of place among their youthful energy and camaraderie. As we parted ways after exchanging quick goodbyes, unease settled back into my chest like a heavy weight pressing down on me again, especially when Jake pulled Ben aside for a whispered conversation before they left together. Later that night at home, thoughts spiraled around what had happened earlier in the day. The playful energy between us all mixed with an undeniable tension that felt both thrilling and wrong simultaneously. My son returned from hanging out again later that evening. His face reflected fatigue from the day spent away from home yet still held curiosity beneath its surface. How was your day? He asked casually as he tossed his backpack onto the floor. It was fine, I replied too quickly again but knew better than to press further into details regarding mine or anyone else's activities lately given our previous conversation this morning. He nodded thoughtfully but didn't seem entirely convinced by my response either. Suspicion lingered like shadows creeping across walls dimly lit by fading daylight filtering through curtains drawn tight against outside scrutiny. A growing rift forming between us both palpable despite attempts at maintaining normalcy within our household routine each day passing by. As days turned into weeks filled with cooking classes alongside those same friends, and stolen moments shared behind closed doors, my son began noticing more than just late-night absences from home. His eyes narrowed slightly whenever they met mine, now filled not only with concern but also disappointment. Then came another twist. A chance encounter during one of those cooking classes when secrets threatened to spill over completely unbidden like flour dust clouds erupting unexpectedly while kneading dough together side by side laughing at our messiness until laughter faded abruptly upon realization. One of them had feelings for him too. I couldn't believe it when Jake mentioned it casually while stirring sauce one evening after class ended early due to unexpected rain outside. His words echoed ominously within my mind long after they were spoken. You know, Ben really likes your son. What do you mean? My heart raced again as panic surged through veins coursing hotly beneath skin, suddenly feeling exposed under bright kitchen lights illuminating everything too clearly now. I mean, he talks about him all the time. Jake shrugged nonchalantly, stirring away obliviously while stirring sauce simmering quietly beside us, bubbling gently against ceramic pot edges, revealing nothing more than warmth radiating outward amidst chaos brewing inside instead. And just like that, the line blurred even further between friendship and something darker lurking beneath surface tensions, straining against fragile boundaries defined only by unwritten rules governing relationships formed within this world, woven tightly together yet fraying rapidly under pressure, building steadily each passing moment until finally bursting forth without warning. That night after class ended, I sat alone waiting anxiously until finally hearing familiar footsteps approaching outside our doors, signaling impending confrontation looming ahead, once again threatening unravel everything carefully constructed so far. When he entered, my son looked directly at me searchingly before speaking softly yet firmly, "Mom, we need to talk." I took a deep breath, my heart racing as I prepared for what was to come. My son stood before me, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. "Mom, we need to talk." The weight of those words hung heavily in the air, a palpable tension that seemed to thicken with every passing second. "Okay," I replied, trying to maintain composure despite the turmoil within me. He motioned for me to sit, and I complied, feeling the familiar ache of guilt settle in my chest. This conversation felt inevitable, yet I had hoped it would never come. "Why have you been spending so much time with my friends?" His voice was steady but edged with hurt. "I see you at the cooking classes, but it feels like there's something more going on." Each word pierced through me like a knife. He was right, there was more than just cooking happening in those moments. I enjoy their company," I stammered, searching for the right words. "They make me feel alive again." The honesty surprised even me. It wasn't just about food or classes, it was about connection, something I had been craving since my marriage ended. "Alive," he echoed, disbelief coloring his tone. "Mom, they're my friends. You can't just get involved with them like this." His frustration bubbled over as he gestured wildly, his emotions spilling into the space between us. "I'm not trying to replace you or your friendships." I shot back defensively. "I'm just trying to find some joy in my life." But even as the words left my mouth, I could hear the weakness in them. The truth was far more complicated than that. He sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair in exasperation. "But what about us? What about our relationship?" The vulnerability in his voice struck a chord deep within me. I looked away for a moment, grappling with the reality of what I had done. My choices were starting to unravel everything we had built together since his father left us. The thought made me feel sick. "I didn't mean for things to get out of hand," I admitted quietly. "It just happened." A part of me wished it hadn't, wished that those moments shared over flour and laughter had never taken place at all. "How can you say that?" he asked incredulously. "You're supposed to be my mom. You're not supposed to be dating my friends." His voice cracked slightly at the end, revealing how deeply this situation affected him. "I'm not dating anyone," I insisted, though even saying it felt disingenuous. There had been moments, intimate moments, that blurred those lines entirely. He crossed his arms tightly against his chest, eyes narrowing as he studied me intently. "Then why does it feel so much like you are?" The question hung in the air between us like an uninvited guest at a dinner party, uncomfortable and unwelcome yet impossible to ignore. "Because," my voice faltered as I struggled with how to articulate what lay beneath the surface of our interactions, the emotional void that drove me toward their companionship. Because what? He pressed gently but firmly. Because I'm lonely, I confessed finally, feeling tears prick at my eyes despite myself. I thought maybe being around people who care would fill that emptiness. In that moment of raw honesty, something shifted between us, a crack in the armor we both wore so tightly. His expression softened slightly as he took a step closer. But Mom, you have me. I know, I whispered back, feeling overwhelmed by guilt once again. But sometimes it feels like that's not enough. Silence enveloped us as we processed each other's words, both of us searching for understanding amidst confusion and hurt. I don't want to lose you, he said finally, breaking through the stillness that surrounded us like fog on an early Portland morning. And I don't want to lose you either, I replied earnestly. But then came the inevitable question, the one that threatened everything, do you really care about them? The weight of his inquiry pressed down hard on my chest. It felt impossible to answer without revealing too much or too little at once, without risking everything we had left between us. I care about feeling wanted, slipped from my lips before I could stop myself, a truth too raw yet undeniable in its simplicity. His face fell slightly as if struck by realization. Perhaps he understood better than I'd anticipated. The loneliness that accompanied single motherhood often led one down paths they never intended on traveling. I get it, he said softly after a moment's pause. But Mom, please think about how this affects me. The gravity of his plea settled heavily upon my shoulders. Suddenly all those late-night conversations and shared secrets felt tainted by betrayal, not just against him but also against myself and everything I'd hoped our relationship could be moving forward. Just then there was an unexpected knock at our door, the sound jolting both of us from our emotional exchange and into an uncomfortable silence once more filled with uncertainty regarding what awaited outside those walls separating us from reality beyond them. Who could that be? My son asked hesitantly while glancing towards the door as if expecting something, or someone, to disrupt our fragile moment further still. I don't know, came my quiet reply filled with dread over who might enter next into this already complicated situation, one which threatened now not only our bond but also any semblance of peace we'd managed thus far amidst chaos swirling around within our lives' tumultuous landscape. As he moved toward the door cautiously, I felt fear grip my heart tightly once again, wondering whether whatever awaited beyond would bring answers or only deeper questions left unanswered forevermore. The door creaked open, and I held my breath, bracing myself for whatever confrontation awaited. My son stepped back into the room, his expression a mixture of confusion and hurt. The air felt thick with unspoken words as he glanced between me and the remnants of my life that had become entangled with his friends. Mom, what's going on? He asked, his voice steady but laced with emotion. I could see the lines of worry etched on his young face, a reflection of the turmoil that had invaded our home. I've been trying to figure things out, I stammered, wishing I could find the right words to bridge this growing chasm. I know things have changed between us. He crossed his arms defensively, a posture that spoke volumes. Changed? You mean you've been hanging out with my friends behind my back? His tone was sharp, cutting through the tension like a knife. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, I replied softly, trying to convey the complexity of my feelings. I was lonely, and they made me feel alive again. Alive? His incredulity hung in the air. What about me? What about us? The weight of his words hit hard. I had sought connection in all the wrong places, neglecting the relationship that mattered most. I'm sorry, I said finally, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I didn't think about how it would affect you. For a moment, silence enveloped us, heavy and suffocating. Then he uncrossed his arms slightly but didn't approach any closer. You think this is just about you? He asked, frustration bubbling beneath the surface. No. It's not just about me, I insisted, desperate to make him understand. But I've felt so isolated since your father left. It's been hard for both of us. His expression softened slightly as he took a step forward but still held back. "You're not alone anymore, Mom. You have me." Those words struck a chord deep within me, a reminder that while I sought solace in fleeting encounters with his friends, I had neglected my greatest source of strength, him. "I know," I whispered, guilt washing over me like a cold tide. "And I'm here now to make it right." "Make it right?" His voice rose incredulously again, the hurt was palpable in every syllable. "You can't just take it back. You've changed everything." "I'll do better," I promised earnestly. This time my heart was in every word spoken between us. He shook his head slowly as if weighing my sincerity against the backdrop of betrayal he felt. "How can you expect me to believe that? You were supposed to be there for me." The truth stung like a fresh wound. He had every reason to question my intentions now. "I understand why you're angry," I said quietly. Vulnerability crept into my voice as memories flooded back, the laughter we once shared over dinner and how we used to talk about everything under the sun without fear or hesitation. His gaze softened again momentarily before clouding over once more with uncertainty. "You don't get it," he replied softly but firmly. "Help me get it then," I urged him. "Perhaps breaking down these walls might lead us somewhere new together." He hesitated but finally sighed deeply, the sound echoing with resignation. "Before speaking again, "It hurts seeing you with them. They're supposed to be my friends." My heart sank further at this revelation. What had begun as innocent connection had morphed into something much more complicated, something that threatened our bond irrevocably. "I never wanted to hurt you," I said earnestly. Tears began spilling down my cheeks unbidden now as emotions erupted within me like an uncontrollable storm. He turned away briefly, his own emotions clearly battling behind closed doors, but when he faced me again there was something different in his eyes, an understanding born from shared pain perhaps? "I just want you back," he admitted quietly after another long pause filled only by silence punctuated by our breaths mingling together amidst lingering tension still hanging heavily around us both. As those words hung heavy in the air between us, a fragile thread connecting two hearts torn apart, I knew then that this moment might be pivotal if we were ever going to find our way back toward each other again despite everything else swirling around outside our little world. But before we could delve deeper into healing, or even begin rebuilding trust, my phone buzzed insistently from across the room, breaking through our intimate exchange unexpectedly, its tone jarring against such raw emotion shared moments earlier. I glanced at it nervously while biting down on my lip, instinctively wondering who might be calling now. The name flashing across screen sent an icy chill racing through me, a reminder of all choices made leading up until this very moment, one which demanded attention immediately regardless of what lay ahead. "Mom? Are you going to get that?" My son's voice broke through once more, bringing reality crashing back around us both, painfully reminding how precarious everything truly felt right now. "No," but even as those words escaped from between parted lips, I found myself reaching for it anyway. With trembling fingers hovering over screen uncertainly, I hesitated before finally answering, only for seconds later realizing too late what consequences might follow next. "What have you done?" came an accusatory voice from the other end, the tone unmistakably familiar yet foreign enough now, sending shockwaves coursing through body already fraught with tension built up over days gone by since everything spiraled out control. "You need to come home right now." The urgency echoed loud and clear, cutting through any remaining threads binding mother and son together, precariously perched above abyss threatening pull them apart forevermore. The air was thick with tension as I stepped into the house, the familiar warmth now feeling like a stifling blanket. My son, Ethan, stood in the living room, arms crossed and eyes narrowed. The moment felt surreal, a scene from a play where I had forgotten my lines. "Where have you been?" he demanded, his voice trembling with barely contained anger. "I was at the community festival," I replied, trying to keep my tone steady. "I thought it would be nice for us to go together." His expression hardened. "You didn't even tell me you were going." I opened my mouth to respond but found no words. The truth felt heavy on my tongue. How could I explain the whirlwind of emotions that had led me to this moment? How could I articulate the loneliness that drove me into the arms of his friends? "Mom," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper, "you're not being honest with me." The accusation hung in the air like a dark cloud. I took a deep breath, attempting to gather my thoughts while grappling with guilt and regret. "Ethan, please understand." "Understand what?" "That you've been hanging out with my friends behind my back?" His voice rose again, filled with betrayal. I flinched at his words. They pierced through me like arrows. "It's not what you think," I said quickly, desperation creeping into my voice. He shook his head in disbelief. "Then what is it?" "Because it sure looks like you're trying to replace me." The weight of his accusation hit hard, and I felt tears prick at the corners of my eyes. "That's not true. You're my son, nothing could ever replace that." "Then why do they get more of your time than I do?" he shot back. Silence enveloped us as we stared at each other, emotions swirling in an unspoken battle between love and resentment. In that moment, all the late nights and secret rendezvous flashed before my eyes, a dizzying array of choices made in search of connection but resulting in this painful rift. "I'm sorry," I finally managed to say, feeling raw and exposed. I wanted to feel something again, to connect with people who made me feel alive. His expression softened just slightly but remained guarded. "And what about me? Do I not matter?" "You do. You're everything." The words burst forth before I could contain them. Ethan took a step back as if struck by an invisible force. "Then why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you come to me when you needed someone?" A lump formed in my throat as I struggled for an answer that wouldn't sound weak or hollow. "I thought, maybe you'd be better off without your troubled mother dragging you down." He scoffed at that notion. "You think I want a perfect mom? All I want is honesty, someone who's there for me." The truth stung more than any physical blow could have. He was right in ways I couldn't deny. My attempts at finding solace had only driven us further apart. "I'm trying to find myself again," I admitted quietly, each word laden with vulnerability. "What does that even mean?" he asked incredulously. "It means, I'm lost," I confessed, tears finally spilling over as shame washed over me. He looked away for a moment before returning his gaze to mine, a mixture of confusion and compassion flickering across his face. "Maybe we can figure it out together?" Hope flickered briefly within me before being snuffed out by reality's harsh light. The consequences of my actions loomed larger than ever. Just then, the doors swung open behind him. One of his friends stepped inside unannounced, Liam, with an air of casual confidence that belied the tension suffocating our conversation. "Hey man! Ready for some fun?" Liam called out cheerfully before noticing the atmosphere shift instantly around him. Ethan turned sharply toward Liam, frustration evident on his features. "Not now," he snapped. Liam raised an eyebrow but didn't retreat. Instead, he glanced between us curiously. "What's going on?" "Nothing," Ethan replied tersely before turning back toward me. In that moment of distraction, uncertainty washed over me once more as Liam's presence brought forth memories both sweet and bitter, the laughter shared over cooking classes and stolen moments that now felt tainted by betrayal. "Maybe we should talk later," Ethan suggested softly after a long pause where neither of us knew how to bridge this widening chasm between us. "No. We need to talk now." Liam insisted stubbornly as if sensing something deeper beneath our surface-level conflict. Ethan sighed heavily but remained silent. Perhaps he too recognized that our fragile connection hung by a thread, and every word mattered now more than ever. "We can work through this together," Liam interjected gently but firmly as if trying to mediate between us without fully grasping the complexities involved. I turned toward him slowly. Gratitude mingled with apprehension filled my chest as realization dawned. This wasn't just about Ethan anymore. It was about all of us navigating uncharted waters fraught with emotional turmoil and uncertainty ahead. Before any further discussions could unfold, Ethan stormed past Liam toward the door, his footsteps echoing loudly against hardwood floors, a clear signal he needed space from both of us right now. "Wait." Liam called after him but hesitated when Ethan didn't look back or respond, instead opting for silence as he exited into the night beyond our home, the door shutting behind him with finality resonating throughout every corner left untouched by light or laughter lately lost amidst shadows cast by secrets long buried beneath layers built up over time spent apart from one another. "What just happened?" Liam asked cautiously once we were alone, his expression shifting from concern toward confusion reflecting back onto mine like mirrors revealing truths hidden away until now. "Everything," was all I could muster in response, a single word encapsulating everything swirling within, a storm waiting patiently just below surface ready to break free at any moment unleashing chaos upon everything familiar shattered forevermore. As seconds stretched into eternity filled only by echoes left lingering behind closed doors, the weight of choices made weighed heavily upon shoulders worn thin by struggles faced alone for too long, I couldn't help but wonder what awaited beyond horizon yet unseen.